Hey there guys, so I wasn't 100% sure whether or not I wanted to make a video for this Anthony Joshua Joseph Parker fight, but you know what, I got nothing else to do right now. I'm pretty bored, so I figured I'd talk about the fight a little bit because I mean at the end of the day it's a world heavyweight title unification, so how bad can it be? I mean at least it's gonna be entertaining, and it's on a pretty fun card, which is gonna have Alexander Povetkin versus Price, which is also gonna be explosive and entertaining. So I am looking forward to this fight, and I am looking forward to that card. So let's talk about it a little bit. So you guys know that I do rate both of these guys very highly. Joseph Parker, um, although I do agree that his most recent performances haven't been very impressive, I think the last time I was really impressed with Joseph Parker was when he fought Alexander Dimitrenko. I did a post-fight video for that fight, and just the way that he was able to break Dimitrenko down so quickly, get inside and rough him up, and take him out, take him out of his comfort zone so fast. I felt it was quite impressive, but since that fight, Joseph Parker's been going the distance. He's been in close fights. He's been looking, one-dimensional. He hasn't really looked as explosive, and you can have your own. I'm sure you all have your own theories as to why that is, as to why he hasn't been explosive. I mean, it could just be that the level of opposition has increased, or it could just be the styles of his opponents, or there could be other reasons, and I'm not going to get into that right now. But yeah, going into this fight, Joseph Parker's coming off a majority decision victory against Hughie Fury. I felt he won the fight pretty clearly. I thought he won pretty much every round. Hughie Fury, and you guys, look, I've spoken enough about that fight. You guys know my feelings on that fight. Hughie Fury showed up trying to nick the title. He showed up trying to run away, make it the distance, and hoping for a hometown decision, which he never got, thankfully. So yeah, I'm not really going to criticize Joseph Parker for the way he looked against Hughie, because if you're facing a guy who's taller than you, who has got longer arms, quicker feet, quicker hands, and that guy's running away and not trying to engage in the fight and is, just fighting with so much negativity, it's not surprising to me that Parker didn't look good. I mean, I don't think anybody would look good against Hughie Fury in the ring. He's just that kind of fighter. You can't look good against him. It's like fighting who was I thinking of? He's like fighting Kevin Johnson, or he's like fighting Fred Cassie. These guys that are just so awkward and so defensive and so uninterested in standing toe to toe and fighting. To the point where they're literally just in that ring trying to go the distance. And yeah, I think he's that type of fighter, Hughie Fury, and I think that's who he's going to be throughout his career, and I don't think that's ever going to change. So yeah, I can't really take too much from that fight, but his previous two fights, of course, the fight he had against the sparring partner, I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy was basically a borderline journeyman. Joseph Parker looked pretty awful in that fight. I mean, he won the fight clearly, but he just didn't really impress. He didn't really take over the fight and dominate as you would expect him to against an opponent of that caliber. That could be because the opponent, like Hughie Fury, was a little bit negative and was also in that sparring partner mentality where he's just trying to give you rounds. He's not actually trying to win. That's certainly a possibility, but I don't really know about that. Okay, it's up to you guys what you think. But I wasn't impressed with Parker in that fight. And of course, he had a decision victory against Andy Ruiz. Close fight. I thought that he beat Andy Ruiz, but a lot of people, even a lot of my subscribers, disagree. A lot of people think that Andy Ruiz outboxed him. I will say that Andy Ruiz was able to get to him very early on with the jab, and with Ruiz being a short, fat, out of shape, slow, plodding heavyweight, the fact that he was able to land so many jabs on Joseph Parker early on doesn't bode well for him going into this fight, because Anthony Joshua has a very, very hard jab. It's a ramrod jab, and Anthony Joshua is also taller than Joseph Parker, and I believe has longer reach too. So it doesn't look good, does it? When you start to break it down, it doesn't look good for Joseph Parker, man. Going into this fight, you just get the sense that it's inevitable that at some point that jab's going to get rammed into his face, and he's going to have all sorts of problems with it. Anthony Joshua, I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to tell me that Anthony Joshua didn't look good in his last fight against Carlos Takam, and it's true he had problems against Carlos Takam, but let's not forget when Joseph Parker fought Carlos Takam, he went the distance, and it was a close, competitive fight. That was very competitive, that fight. And Parker wasn't really able to put a dent in Takam at all. At least Anthony Joshua was able to drop Takam and was able to force a stoppage. I know that it was premature, but he still did some damage. He opened up a couple of cuts and, busted him up a little bit in there and won every round clearly, even though he was having issues, landing the bombs on the target. And he did end up with a bloody nose, and it was an awkward night's work for Joshua. It was an uncomfortable night's work, but it wasn't one that was competitive. It was a fight that all the way through you always felt that Joshua was somewhat in control. So I don't really think we can take too much from that fight either, because I don't think that Joseph Parker is anything like Carlos Takam in terms of his technique. I don't think that Joshua was expecting Carlos Takam to be so elusive on the back foot, trying to move around and trying to bide his time and take it into the later rounds. I think Joshua was expecting Takam to try and bum rush him and to go in and start working the body like he usually does, be an aggressive pressure fighter, kind of like a Derek Chisora type. But Carlos Takam didn't do that. Obviously, he was somewhat intimidated by Joshua's power, and he wanted to try and look for opportunities on the outside. So I think that took Joshua by surprise. I don't think that Joshua is going to be, as ill prepared going into this fight as he was for that fight, because he knows that Joseph Parker is going to want to box him. Okay, Joseph Parker can't come on the inside and let his hands go and outwork and just demolish and blow away Joshua like he did to Alexander Dimitrenko. Okay, Joshua's a much higher level of talent than Dimitrenko. Joshua's a lot tougher than Dimitrenko. Joshua has a lot more heart than Dimitrenko. Joshua, is a bit of a dirty fighter. We saw that against Klitschko. He even admitted himself after the fight that it was his street mentality which helped him get through the fight and helped him win the fight. And there was a lot of rabbit punches and whatnot. So, Joshua, he can get down and dirty when he needs to in the ring. And I think what's going to happen, I think Joseph Parker has to try and box him. I think the only chance Joseph Parker has to win this fight, he has to be elusive on the outside, because he's quicker than Joshua. He's got quicker hands and quicker feet, and he needs to make that an advantage. He needs to move on the outside, stay away from Joshua, try and take away Joshua's jab, try and draw a lead from Joshua, use feints, jab to the body, and look for opportunities to land a right hand from distance. Because of course that was the shot that Klitschko almost put Anthony Joshua to sleep with. I mean, he dropped him heavily with that right hand, but that's Vladimir Klitschko, who's an elite, former multiple-time heavyweight champion, former lineal heavyweight champion, a guy who was a similar kind of size to Joshua, a guy who had a similar kind of power to Joshua and far better boxing skills than Joshua. And I don't think, personally, that Joseph Parker has the kind of boxing skills or the kind of experience to compete with somebody like Vladimir Klitschko. So I don't see Joseph Parker being able to just, stay on the outside and, drop Joshua with a long right hand. I can't see that happening, guys. I mean, Joshua would have to be extremely tired and extremely broken down for something like that to transpire in the ring. So I think that like I said, what Joseph Parker needs to do, he needs to try and go for a decision victory or a late technical stoppage by, boxing on the outside. Like I said earlier, jab to the body, try and take away Joshua's energy. If Joshua's able to close the distance at all, throw some uppercuts to the body. Big uppercuts to the body, move away and just try and make it an uphill battle for Joshua. Make Joshua move more than he's comfortable doing, because Joshua doesn't move a heck of a lot in the ring. Joshua's feet are quite slow, so he's got all that heavy muscle. So when he does move, it's tiring. The lactic acid builds up and it slows him down. And I think that that's something that Joseph Parker and his trainers need to be looking at, because I really don't see another way that they can win the fight. As for Joshua, all he really needs to do, in my opinion, is close the distance. He has the natural talent. If he's able to close the distance on Parker, it'll only take one clean shot to turn the momentum of the fight in Joshua's favour. If he gains any momentum in this fight, it's over. If he's able to land his own jab with any regularity at all, this fight is over. And you know it's over because, I mean, when you've got a good big man facing a good little man, as they say, the good big man usually wins. And Anthony Joshua's going to be a heck of a lot bigger, heck of a lot heavier, and he, has a similar kind of skill set to Parker in terms of, just in terms of both guys being fundamentally sound, both guys having a similar sort of professional experience, a similar kind of number of fights. They both turned pro around about the same time, so I don't think that Joseph Parker has the experience advantage or the technical advantage here. I think that both guys are similar in terms of their skill, but all the physical and natural advantages have to go to Anthony Joshua. So I see him winning this fight by knockout. I see him breaking Joseph Parker down. Unless Joseph Parker can stay out of trouble for 12 rounds and jab to the body, move away, and just don't get caught up in a brawl at all. I can see Anthony Joshua just working his way in with the jab, gradually. If Joseph Parker decides to get brave and decides to drop his hands and, go all macho on him, show a bit of machismo, he will get broken down and knocked out, in my opinion. Joshua was able to knock out Kevin Johnson, who's a guy that nobody knocks out, okay, never been knocked out before going in the ring with Joshua or since, and has been in the ring with some pretty decent heavyweights, okay, he's been in the ring with Vitaly Klitschko, Manuel Charr, Kubrat Pulev, he fought guys like Tor Hamer, who else did he fight? A bunch of guys, he's a, one of these top level journeymen who fights anybody and fights anywhere, and he's never been stopped outside of Anthony Joshua. So Anthony Joshua's power is real. It's legit, guys. The guy seriously can punch and he can finish an opponent. So I don't see Joseph Parker. I don't see him winning this fight. I just don't see it happening. I think that there's too much riding on the Joshua Wilder unification that Eddie Hearn and Al Heyman and all these people are trying to build up. And I just think that Joseph Parker, he doesn't bring a whole lot to the table in terms of marketability. Okay, New Zealand doesn't have a big boxing following. So I can't see the politics doing him any favours at all. I mean, it's going to be in the UK. It's going to be in Cardiff. So, if the fight's competitive at all, if it's close, can see Joshua getting the decision if it does go 12 rounds, which I'm not sure it will. I just think that Joshua has the ability to get this guy into a brawl, and I think he'll stop him. I just think the difference in power, strength, natural talent, the punching technique too, because Joshua really turns over his punches really well and gets full power. He's able to generate a lot of power behind those very heavy hands and that big muscular frame of his. So I see him winning the fight by knockout. Joseph Parker's only chance, like I said, is to try and take a decision by moving away and working the body from distance and trying to slow Joshua down and make Joshua take the lead more than he likes to. So let me know what you guys think about this fight. I don't really know what else to say, but I think it's going to be entertaining. I mean, Anthony Joshua was always entertaining to watch, in my opinion. Joseph Parker can be entertaining when he's got an opponent who's going to play ball, which his last few opponents just haven't done. I mean, that sparring partner and Hughie Fury just didn't play ball. The fights were boring as shit, but this fight is going to be entertaining, I think, because Anthony Joshua is a guy who likes to have a scrap and who likes to go for the knockout. I mean, he's never been the distance in a fight. All his fights have ended inside the distance. So this is going to be fun while it lasts. Enjoy the fight. I'm going to enjoy this card. Let me know what you guys think about this anyway, and thanks for watching.